Hey everybody, welcome to the Nostalgic Gamers Club exclusively on the internet. My name's Zach, and if you're new to this channel, I just love old video games. So today, I got my hands on a copy, complete in box. I mean, it's a little rough shape, but complete in box of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 for the Game Boy Advance. So in today's episode, we're going to be looking over the front and back cover of the box art, the instruction booklet, the cartridge itself, and we're going to pop it into my Game Boy and look at a little bit of gameplay. We're not using an emulator. This is going to be legit gameplay. I just remember that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, the GameCube version, was like one of my all-time favorite games. And we'll definitely be doing a more in-depth coverage of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, because when I did that episode, I wasn't doing gameplay at the time, and I feel like it'd be cool to showcase this gameplay and that gameplay side by side. I might need an emulator for that, but that's another story. So the front box art is the exact same almost as the one for GameCube. It has all the same information. It's obviously just in a different form factor, but it's Tony Hawk doing an awesome trick up here. It says Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, a bunch of the names of the skaters that you can play as. We got the official Nintendo seal of quality. And like I said, this box is beat up, okay? I didn't pay a lot of money for this, so I didn't expect it to be some crazy great condition. But it's hard to find boxes in general for Game Boy Advance, so I was just excited to find it at all. On the backside here, it says, drop into the ultimate challenge. Pros challenge you to make your mark in huge, free-roaming levels, taking on progressively harder goals with no time limits to hold you back. Decide when you're ready to take on your pro challenge and move into the pro ranks, or show your stuff in 4-player link cable or hot seat play. Build your skills, earn respect, and show that you've got what it takes to go pro. And there are some screenshots here from in the game. Definitely not the same quality as GameCube, obviously, for our very obvious reasons. We just see some tricks being performed here in the various levels. It says, all new tricks, flatland tricks, spine transfers, and level outs. Hundreds of hours of gameplay in the most extensive career mode to date, which is crazy for a Game Boy Advance game. 14 of the world's top pros challenge you to prove your skills. And this is just kind of your basic orange background with Tony Hawk standing there behind these screenshots. And they have a cool effect around these screenshots too, where it's almost like they're bursting through the paper backing of the Game Boy Advance case. I think that's awesome. Up top here it says, only for Game Boy Advance, not compatible with other Game Boy systems. So if you don't got a Game Boy Advance, you're SOL. So we're going to pop this open. Again, I wish this was in a little bit better shape, but we do have the instruction booklet here for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. And, one thing is that usually these Nintendo booklets were in full color. If I remember correctly, the one for GameCube for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 was not in color. This one seems to be the same way. We won't go through everything in here, but I just wanted to kind of flip through this real quick with you guys to show you what this Game Boy Advance instruction booklet looked like. It's just talking about, so you want to be a pro. This is how you kind of do your basic controls. It says use these to not be a complete noob with zeros for the O's. I mean, that's, if you want early 2000s, you got it. It says ollie, skater term for jump. This is such a snarky instruction booklet for the fact that it's trying to teach you how to do stuff. We have a little bit more of our advanced controls starting over here, and that's just kind of continuing over just how to do manuals, how to do 180s, that sort of thing. Right here, it's talking a little bit through the main menu, the different game modes that are available. So there was career mode, single session, and multiplayer. And of course, because this was like the early days of connectivity with this sort of stuff, this is pretty extensive on how to actually get set up with your multiplayer games, as well as the different multiplayer modes that you can play. You could do free skate in single player mode. You could also up here do free skate in multiplayer mode, which I think is kind of nice. And it says in this mode, you can skate with your friends and check out a level with no time limit and no objectives, just pure fun. There's, of course, the select skater screen. Here it walks you through a little bit of the skate shop, how to customize your skater, the various options of the game, of course, starting the game, how the scoring works in the game, which is really nice to have a very solid idea of what those points are worth. I feel like some of these older games were just kind of inscrutable. You just got points. Here we're going through, I hope I don't butcher some of these names, but we have Tony Hawk, Bob Burnquist, Bam Margera, who looks so young in that picture, Bucky Lasik, Chad Muska, Jamie Thomas, Rodney Mullen, who I freaking love. If you haven't seen the Pretending I'm a Superman documentary, he's in it and he's great. Eric Costin, Alyssa Steamer, Jeff Rowley, Rune Glifberg, Andrew Reynolds, Steve Caballero, and Kareem Campbell. The levels that were available to play were California College, Alcatraz, Kona Skate Park, Shipyard, Zoo, and London. And then they get into a trick list, which is just a very, very nice reference to have in a game like this. So you don't have to keep going into the pause menu. You could just leave this out and reference those tricks as you're going. And again, this is where we're getting into the more extensive piece of how to connect the Game Boy Advance link cables for that multiplayer action. Look at that. Look at that diagram. You want to go 4 players. You and your buddies are just huddling around with a bunch of link cables. You got little hubs here for them. It's great. It's freaking great. And then we have our credits, customer support, all that good jazz. And surprisingly, no ad on the back. A lot of these old instruction booklets would have an advertisement of some sort on the back, so that way, you know, they could kind of push whatever their next game is going to be. I'm surprised this doesn't have one. Getting to the cartridge itself, it's just kind of your standard issue Game Boy Advance cartridge. And I'm really excited to boot this up. I've actually never played the Game Boy Advance version of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, so this is definitely a new experience for me. I'm not going to play a ton of it, but I'm really curious to see kind of what my first impressions are of this game that I've never played in this format, but that I loved in other formats. All right, let's get this bad boy set up. And also, I love this Game Boy, but I don't remember who I bought it from, like what the name of the company was. But I will say I wouldn't really want to promote them too terribly much anyway, because while they did send me this for free in exchange for promotion, it has since given me all kinds of issues where it just kind of dies all the time. So we're going to see if it actually stays in play for this entire session. We're going to find it out. Let's do this. Oh, that's a dirty screen. Hold on. I'm going to try not to do that because then I'm like staring at you guys. I don't like when the black mirror points at me. Don't like that. I mean, so far it's working. This, it's, you know, you never can tell. It really doesn't look too bad, honestly. So I feel like maybe let's just do career. Oh, here we go. Let's do single session, or do we have free skate? Hell yeah, free skate. And yeah, Bam Margera is cool. Let's do the zoo if we have it unlocked. We don't. Okay. Yeah, let's roll with that. Let's see what happens here. This actually controls really nicely, and I gotta say, I'm trying not to like tilt it too far toward myself, but I think I might have had this as a kid. The more that I'm playing this, I think I might have had the Game Boy Advance version of this and completely forgot about it, because this is just like a walk down memory lane right now. Like I feel like I've been here before, and I mean maybe it's just because it's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, and I used to play that a lot, but this is honestly really nice. Let me try to hold it up a little bit closer for you guys there. See what's get a good angle there for everybody. Wow, I'm really bad at controlling this. Okay, so let's exit the pipe. So it looks like A is grind, B is ollie. So let's go do some grinding here, and then you can like ollie, and then it looks like the triggers are like triggers plus a direction are how you get your tricks off here. Tricks are for kids. I truly can't remember if I played this version on the Game Boy Advance now, because this looks wacky familiar. Like, that's that's a crash. This looks super familiar to me. And I played a lot of Game Boy Advance games. I remember, especially like on longer road trips, or if I was going over to my grandparents' house, you know, and like now that I'm a little bit older, I'm like, man, I wish I would have like spent more time not just playing the games there, and, you know, maybe just socialized more. But I was a kid. I didn't know any better. And, you know, I like Tony Hawk. I like playing the Tony Hawk games. And listen to that soundtrack too. I'm going to turn my mic toward the speakers here for a second. Oh, I just love that like crushed bit rate, that crushed sound effect that you get. Also, I'm going to go ahead and blame my poor skills on the fact that I'm watching this on my camera's monitor, so that way I can show you guys a nice flat view of it, and it's insanely hard to land anything, and really even to see where I'm skating on here while I'm doing this. This is honestly really cool though. Like it really brings me back to these early Game Boy games. There was a lot of games that I'd play on Game Boy Advance that they really weren't all that great. Like comparative to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 on GameCube, this is not excellent, right? Like objectively, this is worse than Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 on GameCube. But there were a lot of games like this. I remember that there was a Jurassic Park game that I played that was a lot like this, where it was just kind of like the not isometric view, but there's kind of this like weird top-down like knockoff Jurassic Park game. But they were still fun. Like it was nice to have mobile gaming that was functional. And I'm not saying the Jurassic Park one was necessarily functional because I don't remember it enough to say that, but having games like this, or I know I played a lot of like the Driver games and Sonic, having these mobile games that actually performed well was huge because you just didn't get that a lot. I'm going to pause this for a second. Maybe. There we go. But yeah, it was huge to have these mobile games that would actually perform well, and they felt like real games. They didn't feel like some super pared down version. I mean, again, clearly this is very pared down from the GameCube version, but not as much as you would see with like an original Game Boy game, you know, when you might be going from Mario 64 to Super Mario Land, which a great game in its own right, but so far pulled back from what consoles at the time were doing. I feel like this was the beginning of when we would start to see these handheld consoles obviously not get to the same caliber as home consoles, but this leading into like the PSP and the Vita, and I mean anymore, like you look at a Switch, like that's a mobile console. So I feel like the Game Boy Advance leading into the Game Boy Advance SP and the DS and the 3DS, it really did start to make some advancements in that way. And this is just really cool to see because this is still a fully functioning Tony Hawk game. You know, definitely not as in-depth as the ones on console, but what a trip down memory lane to check this out. And I genuinely like surprised myself because I was almost positive that I hadn't played this on Game Boy Advance. Now I'm almost positive that I have. The music and the graphic style, I'm pretty sure that I've been here before. And I think once the cameras are done rolling, I'm probably just going to take this out and play this for a couple hours. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please consider subscribing and let me know what games you want me to play in the future. I'm really excited. I have some big games coming up. So keep an eye out for those. But thank you guys, as always, for sticking with me, for checking this video out. And let me know your favorite memories of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, whether it was on the Game Boy Advance or the GameCube or really wherever you played it. I love hearing those old stories and connecting with you guys over this sort of shared nostalgia. So anyway, I appreciate you guys a ton and hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.